All right, ladies and gentlemen, officially here. There's this show I'm starting. Today's not the official day. Today's kind of like a warm up, but once a week, I'm going to spend time discussing a bunch of different topics, but centered around our lives because I do a lot of gaming stuff, but I've been planning for literally 2 years. And today's kind of just an announcement, a casual stream. I'm going to be having a couple people to come by for different topics, and we'll get into a bunch of things. But as you could see in the title, it says learning about crypto, NFTs, and more. So that is going to be some of the topics today. Just because I've done a little research, I don't know enough to say I'm an expert or even to explain it to people fully. But with my capability of just kind of having some conversations with some people who are involved in that world and getting deeper into that side of it, it's going to help myself, which is what's aiming for. But I get to share that learning process. Being open minded to these things is important. The older we kind of get a little close minded on some of these things if we're being honest with ourselves. Whether it's movies, music, video games, kind of stick to the nostalgia back in my day and all of that good stuff. And it's interesting, but that's a psychological thing that people need to work on, and myself included, to make sure that I'm open minded. So today is kind of a dedication to starting that with crypto and all of the different elements. So again, this is not an official show. It's just me hanging out, and I'm gonna talk about it. And wait a minute, I got the chat on the stream. I did not even know I had that. We're gonna turn that off for today. Actually, you know what? Let's leave this bad boy on. I'm gonna put this down here on the bottom and make it nice and big so you can be a part of the conversation and have a little bit of a dialogue with me as we go. But again, I'm new to this. This isn't the format that I'll set up for the stream. When I do it, I do have some guests coming. I'm super late. I was supposed to be on a half hour earlier. I'm not feeling too hot. I took a nap to try to shake it off, but I'm still just tired. I was tired earlier by like 4 o'clock, but that's because I was up at early morning. So, um, anyway, so what is crypto? I think a lot of people have different interpretations of crypto and NFTs, and you ask around. And from what I've seen, and the true definition is very simple, actually. Um, if you think about video games and excuse me, you look at what the video games offer, it's pretty basic currency within the game. And that is what crypto is, but in real life. So in a lot of video games, they're like, oh, you got to find this specific metal, or you got to find this scrap, or look for this tinfoil in video games, and you're collecting it, and you ended up buying things with it within the world. And in the old days, people would trade, let's say animals and crops and all of those things. But in our modern society, when we live in this digital age, crypto is basically just a form of payment that is not basically regulated through the central monetizing authorities such as the government and the banks. they kind of skipped them and created their own currency, which is called crypto, of course. And the reason it's called crypto is because this is used by cryptographic technology, which enables people to buy, sell, trade them securely. And this is me reading pieces of the actual definition. So don't think that I'm super educated on it, but that is the principle of what cryptocurrency is. And hey, that's a simple one. Like I said, the best way to break it down is like in-game currency for video games. Every game has different currencies, and you can decide which one you want to go with depending on what's necessary for you. And it's the same thing with this crypto. And it's like which one has more value, which one you trust, and blah, 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 which you think is going to excel later. And that's a different conversation. Again, I'm not educated on these numbers on what to invest in. And that's what we're going to start learning about. Secondly, secondly, the NFT conversation. This one is a lot more complicated for me. I can't really simplify it enough for the world's view. Basically, from the definition, all right, a non-fungible token that is unique and non-interchangeable unit of data stored on a blockchain, a form of digital ledger. Okay. So just think of the digital world. We, as video game folks, understand what a virtual world is. And we just talked about currency in video games, right? So this is kind of the same thing, but it can be anything. NFTs are tricky because it's in a lot of people's views, they think NFTs just artwork, but NFT can be music, right? It can be a photo. It can literally be anything. Right now, there's video game worlds that are letting people buy video game land. Let's say what your favorite game is. Then you buy a piece of land in that game, and all of a sudden you can build anything in that world. Anything you want, because it's your land, as long as it's, reasonable. And these are the type of different NFTs that you might not know about, that I don't know about. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And it's a different conversation to get into the good and bad about it. There's plenty of issues going on in our world about it right now, but there's also a lot of good things about it. And this is a big part of the future, I believe. And we got to embrace that. So those are the two topics for today. And there's some more. And I do have a guest who I want to come on board and just kind of discuss what he's thinking or feeling and kind of get his impressions. And I will say the people that I bring on today aren't representing of me. They have their own brand, they own their own products. They just know a little bit about NFTs, and I wanted to just have a chat with them. Hold on. So I just want to have a chat with them and kind of pick their brains and have them explain what their view is. Understand that everybody has different perspectives, and there's no wrong or right answer. Like I told you earlier, if we're talking about currencies, what's the best to invest in? Where should I go? And it's not always necessarily right or wrong with these things, because sometimes your investment might do good for the next couple months, but someone else's investment might do good for 10 years. So an opinion isn't necessarily factual, right? Regardless of how good, whether you're Warren Buffett or, Elon Musk or whoever rich person you think has the best investment mentality, there's different strategies as well. And there's not that they're wrong or right and all of that stuff. And whatever anybody says on my stream that's not me is not a representation of me, just a guest that I'm bringing on, hoping to see things in a different perspective. Right. So that's what the deal is. And I'm going to call this person right now, try to get them on a call. Hopefully they can hear me here and I can hear them. We'll see. I'm a rookie. Surprise call this person. Should be interesting. I'm going to actually turn my camera off. There we go. Not sure if the call is going through. There we go. Need a drink anyways. So super interested to have this conversation. There's actually another separate conversation that him needs to have. Well, he's not answering. I will end up having to call him back. But I try to get him on the line. But so there's plenty of talk and trying to understand this movement. It's important because it's important to understand it because it's a part of our world and it's not going nowhere. And I'm going to go ahead and call him again. Hello, Slapton's in the building. Hey, by the way, I don't have camera on today. It's not like it's like a casual today, but I'll set up a camera for next time if we can do that. Got you. Hey, hold on a second. The audio's not going through, so they can't hear you right now. I have this weird setup. I'm actually testing out an old setup that I had. So, yeah. But Slapton's a gentleman who's deep into this realm, and I'm kind of introducing to the stream. Today's called Learning About Crypto, NFTs, and More. And it's just me trying to educate myself and learn a little bit as I'm on stream, kind of just have that dialogue, see what I can grow. Why is this not working? Oh, here it goes. Wait a minute. Hey, can you say something? Y'all can't hear him, but oh man, hold on. Man. Well, I'm a rookie. That's for sure. Why it was working just fine a second ago. Give me a second here, buddy. Man, what did I do? Well, All right, can you just give me a mic check real quick?
Hey, mic check. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Chicken dinner. Let's get it.
Actually, you're on now. Thank you.
All
This
right,
is good.
perfect. That's my introduction to the community. It's chicken dinner.
Chicken dinner. So we got Slapped in. If you could introduce yourself and give us your handle if you want as well.
Yeah, so honestly, so I'm in the crypto world. It's very unusual that people even show their faces. I'm the only one in my organization, except for one other guy that does. My identity is just Slapped and Swerve. That is my handle. That is what I go by. But I promise you, I'm a real human. So I go by Slapped and Swerve. And that was my Twitch handle as well. And that's one of the reasons why I doxed my face, is because I was already, like, if you search twitch.tv, this isn't a plug, I'm not shilling.
Plug in.
I didn't even play Apex, man. I was playing some ridiculous browser games, like silly little things, like during COVID. But there was no reason for me to hide my face. So I here I am. But yeah, Slapped in is what I go.
Slapped in, yeah. So you're in the crypto world. I am brand new. I'm not like an old school person. You know, these closed-minded. That's one thing I started the show with is right now our society is closed-minded about NFTs, and they're worried about silly things that will hopefully get fixed sooner or later. I'm sure it will. If not, it's going to be disaster later. But the whole environmental issue and then the stealing of content, there's that topic, which we're not doing today, but it closes a lot of people's minds on learning about this stuff. It's like nobody wants to. I have friends that I talk with that they're just like, now, then we have debates, and I'm like, listen, at least learn about it first. I don't know about it yet as much as I should. We have to understand it before you can make a decision on if you feel it's good or bad. Like, it makes no sense.
I think part of that, and this is me reading human psychology, and I could be completely off base. I think some people are sincere about the fact that they don't like crypto. I think other people, it's hard to learn this stuff. And so when they're faced with this challenge of putting in the work, the hours, the effort, they'd rather just say, I'm not going to do it. And it's not because I'm lazy, because I can't be lazy. It's because it's just bad, you know? So they come up with a really convenient excuse to not learn it. But from my perspective, and this is just my humble perspective, and I admit I don't know everything and could be wrong about everything. From my perspective, this is something worth learning about because I don't think it's going to stop. I think more and more of our lives are going to move to blockchain. And the more you're aware of that, the better position you're going to be in the future. And even as gamers, I think that this is coming to gaming, like to make it relevant to your audience, like 100% this is coming to gaming. It already exists.
Yeah, there's definitely Sandbox right now has a whole world where you can buy land through crypto, and then you can create your own games within it, and then everybody else will come in and play. Right now, they have big artists in there. They have big companies like Atari and others joining on this as well, which they have their own. Basically, imagine it as a theme park. You go to Disney in the real world. Well, you can do that within this game to the Atari games, or Snoop Dogg world, where he got his own little setup, or all of these famous people who are purchasing pieces of land to kind of advertise who they are and their brands through that virtual space, which is basically a big NFT for everybody. So that's a whole different conversation. And speaking of that, you kind of touched on something earlier that I haven't talked about yet. Web3 also is another avenue of conversation, which we knew the regular Web 1 was originally static pages. Then Web 2, which we're kind of in right now, the whole advertising directly for you, as you know, when you agree to Google or Facebook, all of that, they take your information. And then when you look at your feed, is different than my feed, you know, and my cousin's feed got girls twerking while my feed is focused on Apex and your feed is on cryptocurrency, you know.
So, I got girls twerking. What do you mean? What do you mean I don't got? No, I'm joking. I don't.
So, yeah, me neither. It was funny because a cousin of mine was telling me that, like, you know, all these girls on the every time I open up, and I'm like, I've never seen that stuff.
I'm like, you don't have girls twerking on your feed, bro?
I Google my own type of secret society stuff here, but I mean that's private, but it never comes out on my actual feeds and stuff. And I'm like, I don't have that on there
I know.
specifically.
We
But
it's
anyway,
we live in our own
so then
digital world.
the
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Web3 is something I'm really new at. I skimmed it this weekend as well. I've been trying to educate myself slowly, but
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's I'm happy to whatever however wherever we have to start in the process. If you need if that's the purpose of what you want to talk about tonight, I can definitely start. The thing I always tell people is you can get an a broad overview quickly, but a really comprehensive overview is probably going to take you the rest of your life because by the time that you really understand what's going on,
yep.
it's gonna change. So I I work a full-time job outside of crypto, and when I'm not working a full-time job, I'm spending more than full-time hours in the crypto world. Just
definitely, it's
learning.
Basically your whole life.
Yeah, it's an obsession at this point, and I don't know even a half of what's going on. I know my little world in it. I have a general overview of what's happening in most of crypto, but it's on a video game front, it's kind of like saying, could you know everything about explain to me everything about video game? It's like, well, there's 1,000 different platforms. There's a bunch of different genres in those platforms, and it's constantly evolving. Like, you might know everything about video games today, but you won't in 5 years.
But even that right there, I'll stop you for a second.
Yeah.
But basically, even that, us gamers, we think we know it all. Like, well, the devs, all they got to do is just add this thing and it's fixed and everything's better. And then all of a sudden, we don't have no idea how this works. We don't know how to make that. We don't know how to design it. We don't know if it's going to break the game, if it's going to unbalance things. There's so many layers to also not knowing. So you're definitely right about that. And I think before we get into it on your side, and so everybody knows what happened is me and him have possibly a future project in video games, but I seen he was in the current crypto world, and it's a world I haven't touched yet. And I talked about starting a podcast, which I haven't done. Today's kind of like a warm-up pilot, but a podcast inviting a bunch of different guests from the crypto world to educate me, because what I believe in is perspective. I believe that the more perspective you get, the easier things are to learn. So today we're going to get Slapton's perspective and, go from there. And I'm going to take that knowledge and try to, develop my understanding as well, and then continue to evolve. So I'm grateful for you to come through and just share a couple minutes. And he's kind enough to do something. This has nothing to do with the project that we'll probably be doing for video games. This is strictly just an educational type of platform. So thanks a lot, Slapton, by the way.
Thank you for inviting me, man. If I wasn't talking to you, I'd be talking to this is all I do is talk about crypto.
Gotcha.
It's fun for me. So instead of boring people at the bar about it, I'll bore you on your podcast,
Cool. All right. So now starting off, I'm going to start investigating here. We're doing an investigation. You're going to act like I'm a 65-year-old who's a millionaire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need to do this. And then never mind that part. I'm going to die soon. I'm 65 and I don't care about anything. I got the money, but why should I invest? Now I'm thinking of my nephew and niece. I don't need you to sell me that, but to understand what is crypto.
Right.
First of all, what is crypto and why do I care? That's the question.
That's interesting. So my father recently passed, but he was 83 and he was a traditional investor his entire life. And he didn't know nearly what I know, but he, independent of me, got into crypto. And the reason why he got into it was just simply the returns that they offer. Particularly in the crypto world, because it is new, it is more volatile, and there is an opportunity to earn bigger returns than you could, let's say, in traditional equities like stocks. But I will preface this with this. I'm not sure I would sell a 65-year-old to get into crypto for the reasons you stated. If that 65-year-old were a millionaire, had their financial future figured out, I would probably say you can dip your toe, but it might not make the most sense for you. I have to be real about that. I don't think there's an investment that's right for every person in every part of their life.
Gotcha. But we're not pitching that to them because maybe they wanted to do it for their nephews and nieces.
Right.
So it's not about the sale; it's about understanding. But I see my nephew and niece need the money for the future, and they need generational wealth.
Well, that's a different thing. So if the person was saying, I'm not looking to gain money, but I want to maybe custody this crypto for future generations, well, that's a completely different argument, and that's one that I can make.
Yeah, so it's basically, what is crypto and why would I want to invest is the main question.
The hard part about explaining crypto is first you have to explain to people how regular money works. And that's unfortunately something that isn't taught and really isn't understood very well. So the dollars that you and I hold, presumably if you live in America, the greenbacks, whatever you want to call them, the Federal Reserve notes,
The robbery.
Yeah, man. So it's, it sounds like you do have an understanding. They're printed by what's called the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has a money printer, literally, or many of them. And right now, there's nothing stopping the Federal Reserve from printing as many dollars as they want. There was a time when the Federal Reserve could only print money if they had gold in a bank, in a vault. That's called the gold standard. That's been absolved for 50 years. That ended in 1972. So once you basically gave these people the authority to print as much money as they wanted to, you gave them unlimited money. And, so if you and I are holding $100 each, and the Federal Reserve goes and prints, $10 trillion, the supply of money increases, and our share of the total supply just decreased.
Yeah, you get a limited amount of money they could print and unlimited amount of debt that we owe.
That's it. And so to put it in video game terms, because I love making connections, it's like, why do people go after the exclusive gold gun or the gold skin? Because it's scarce. Because if everybody got it, nobody would care about it, right? And the same thing's true with money or any other asset. The more of it in an ecosystem, the less valuable it inherently becomes, supply and demand, right? So we live in that world now. And this is it's something like 80% of all dollars ever created. I'm talking from the beginning of dollars, 200 years, whatever you want to call it, 150 years, has been printed in the last 5 years. 80% of all dollars that have ever existed in the last 5 years, which shows
they burn it and make more too.
They can do as much, and they can keep printing. So just by holding dollars, you're getting what's called diluted. You're getting your share of the pie cut out from underneath you. So along comes crypto, and particularly if we're talking about crypto, we should just talk about Bitcoin to give it like a very real thing to focus on, because crypto's a lot of different things. He's
plugging again, guys. He's on a Bitcoin right now.
Well,
Bitcoin.
I am. Well, I'll be full disclosure. I am, but Bitcoin is the OG. Obviously, it's the thing that started all this thing. And what Bitcoin has over regular money is that the supply is known and fixed, meaning that once Bitcoin reaches, I believe it's 21 million Bitcoin, none can be created. That is indisputable. It is controlled by the protocol itself. It's algorithmic. Nothing can be done about it. So we can't have a bunch of people printing more Bitcoin to get, to do whatever they want to do. It's finite. And it has all the other properties of money, and you could even say that they're better. So they're transferable. Like, I can send you Bitcoin right now. It happens quicker than a bank can send you money. Have you ever tried to fund something from your bank with an ACH, an automatic clearinghouse? It takes 5 business days. So basically, you give your money to a bank. The bank will custody your money. And the bank, if you want your money into a different account through ACH, they might take 5 business days. They can take as long as they want. Bitcoin, it's
because it's not really your money. That's a whole different topic. But what he's discussing outside of the crypto side of it is the whole, and this is we don't want to get into conspiracies, but if you look at the history of the Rockefellers and all the investors who created the Federal Reserve to basically control the finances and control money in every possible way back in the day, that's where this whole debt came in. That's where this money isn't real. And it's basically, if you ask in the bank for some money, they're gonna generate it through debt. It's like, well, we just got a little extra 10,000 off of these people over here. We're gonna go ahead and spread it over to the rest of those guys that are asking for some money too. Now they're gonna owe us too, and it just keeps going down a rabbit hole. So this whole idea of crypto, I would say, is revolutionary in that sense, and it's awesome. And I'm gonna stop you for what you were saying, just to kind of ask this question and talk about this, because in that sense, I believe a person like me and many others will feel the righteousness of saying, hey man, we're not going to get bullied by, you know, this societal trap of how it's supposed to be. You know, I get a birth certificate that's worth my life, so
Right.
that alone puts currency in the world. So I could rebel and be like, cool, I like crypto. But now the question is, who owns crypto and who's controlling it? Who's monitoring that aspect of those who control it as well? So it's that's a deeper convo, separate one from supposed to be light today and supposed to be learning just the surface. We kind of going deep down the rabbit hole, but that's a deeper conversation that I feel I'm interested in as well, to kind of investigate and see how that process works and kind of learn like the safety and securities and where's the, you know, different levels to it, because there's always loopholes and all this within everything.
It's not perfect. So I don't always tell people this. first of all, crypto is not one thing. Like, not to answer your question specifically, but broadly, crypto is not one thing. Bitcoin's not Litecoin, which isn't this coin, which isn't, like, everything's different. And and I'm a realist about crypto. I don't think crypto is a silver bullet that's going to save the world from everything. And I even think that the inherent problems that we're seeing in what I'd call the default or meat space world is what people in crypto call like the default world. I'm not so sure that all of it is solvable, even with crypto. What I think of crypto is a step in the right direction, but there's no perfect solution to any of this stuff. There's still challenges to be faced with crypto. Like, it's anybody who tells you otherwise isn't being realistic. I'm a real, like, that's the people you know you can trust in crypto is the ones who are saying, hey, things can get better, they're not going to be perfect. Anybody who's going to get perfect, they're going really far.
True.
You know.
Yeah, it's interesting. But you were saying you kind of broke down some of the core aspects of the separation of, like, okay, well, we had this money, this currency. I mean, we literally lived in the old days where we're trading crops and animals, and then we went and said, hey, let's do some coins and make some money out of it. And then all of a sudden the government said, hey, you know what? We're not going to have no more money. We're going to do fake money and just print it out so that you guys can use it. And it's just like digital, but it's not really digital. It's fake physical money to make you think it's real. And we're going to keep printing it out and make it as much debt so we can keep everything under control and profit as much as we can. And that's where all this, like, hey, we got government grants and we got this and we got all that. That's where they make money out of nowhere for wars or whatever they feel like. So with all that said, somebody came along and said, hey, you guys are already doing fake money. We're going to make our own currency as well. You know, some people sell and trade animals in the old days. Then they started doing gold, and they printed paper or whatever you want to call it, cash. And then now we have crypto, which is a digital form of all of that.
Sure. It's a network money. Yeah, you think of it that way. It's an evolution, right? We had shells to begin with, and then we found something better. We went to, like, metal, and then we realized that paper, or, you know, barter, and then we realized that paper was was better than it, had advantages, and now crypto is the next iteration of that. And it has all the advantages of money. You can easily transfer it. It's fungible, meaning that one Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin, right? Whereas, like, one diamond isn't necessarily worth one diamond, because you have to think, like, things like carats and cuts will affect the value of a diamond. That's not true, let's say, with the Bitcoin. They're all the same. They're divisible. We can divide Bitcoin almost infinitely into smaller portions, which is very helpful as a currency. Right. And its supply, and this is the advantage it has over fiat currency, is its supply is limited. Those are, like, some of the aspects of money. So does everything money does? I say fiat currency does, but better.
Right.
So it's just
now here we go. This is the general idea question. By the way, I'm streaming on like 30 platforms, so we're live on YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook.
Appreciate it.
Twitter, like all these places.
Nice.
So one of the questions is, after I invest and I make a couple, which that's a whole nother conversation of, like, how to invest and but I invest and now I make a couple. I'm not in it for the long haul. I just want to try to make some money, right? I want to make a couple thousand, you know, maybe 50,000 or something, anything, just something.
Yes.
Give me something. So then I invest my money. How can I get the money back physically? Can I turn it into cash, or am I stuck in the cryptocurrency only? How does that work is the question. And I kind of stretched the question out a little bit because I like it. But
it's a good question. So really, the reality is we're still living in a fiat world. Even Bitcoin is, the value of Bitcoin is described in terms of US dollar, right? So right now I know Bitcoin is worth approximately $42,000 of Bitcoin, 41, somewhere around there. I didn't check a minute ago, somewhere around. So the reality is we still live in a world that relies on fiat currency. So how do we get Bitcoin? There's the primary way I would say that people are getting it is through what's called a centralized exchange. If you've heard of Coinbase, they're like a big one. Gemini is another one. And really what that is an account that you can put your money into. So this is what I'm talking about. I go to my bank, or I do it electronically, and I get funds transferred from my bank to this Coinbase account or this Gemini account. It takes 5 business days because they can do whatever they want with my money. And then from there, I can exchange that money for Bitcoin or whatever. I'm just going to say Bitcoin because it's probably the thing what people are most.
It's fine. Bitcoin is not the only currency, but it's the currency we're discussing today because we're trying to promote and get our currency up. We want to get stocks up. Come on.
That's all. I still want to confuse people with all this crazy stuff. So yeah, you buy your Bitcoin, and so then what would happen? Let's assume that more people bought more Bitcoin than sold it. Supply and demand. So if people keep buying it, taking it off exchanges, it becomes more scarce. Demand for it will drive the price up. And as the price drives up, you might have bought it at 40,000, but a month from now it's worth 60,000. And you're like, all right, man, I just made 20% or 50% of the money that I invested. I want to get that money. So you go back to the centralized exchange, you sell it, and you get fiat in return.
Pause right there.
That's it.
If I'm gonna sell it, who am I selling it to? Is it easy to sell, or am I just doing it like a bank sale? Like, hey, this is how much I got. I want to get my money out now.
Yeah.
What is the issue with that?
The centralized exchanges are what's called a market maker. Now, what's really happening in the stock market or in the crypto market is that it's matching buyers and sellers. That's all it is. And if you actually look on Coinbase, if you go into what's called the book, which is the sell and buy book, we're getting technical now, but you actually see a bunch of people who put in orders that say, I will buy at this price, I will sell at this price. And that system, that centralized exchange, is matching it for you. It's basically when I go to the centralized exchange and I say, I want to sell a Bitcoin, I can say, I want to sell it at the market price, which basically means the next person who offers anything, this trade will execute. So I put it up, the exchange holds it and waits for a buyer. The buyer comes in, says, I want to buy it at 61,000, and my instructions were, I want to sell it at the next person who makes an offer. With the assumption that the next person who makes an offer isn't going to give me like $5, right? That's just not a realistic world. So then the centralized exchange will match us. It will do that work. It takes a fee. It takes like a 0.5% fee of what you sold. That's how it makes money. So it's taking its cut.
Yeah, but it's doing the job for you, basically.
Yeah, basically that's it. So that's what the centralized exchange does. Same thing happens in the stock market. If you go like TD Ameritrade, if you guys are familiar with that, and you want to buy Amazon or Tesla, you're going to put in a buy order, and they're going to match you with somebody who's selling. And if your price is matched, it goes through.
Right. All right. So let's rewind that on my simpler mind terms.
Yep.
So we're sitting here. We're going to set up and get something nice. It's like, okay, I put in 5. I'm just looking like I'm about to get 10 back, 10,000 by the way. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get out of here. I'm a little bit scarce about this. I'll probably come back maybe another time, but let me try to get this money out. Then I have to go put it into basically a trading center where they're gonna basically manage it for me and say, okay, we'll find someone to buy it off of you. So the same way that I'm buying into the crypto for, let's say I've paid 5,000 to get in, and that basically must have been somebody pulling out, possibly, where they're like, okay, well, I'm buying it off of them. I'm buying it off of you, Clap, for 5 at the time. And then let's say a year passes and I want to sell it, now it's up 10. And someone else that wants to buy is buying it at 10. That's how I get out and get my cash, while the person who's coming in is doing the opposite of what I just did.
That's it, man. And you asked an earlier question, like how easy is it to buy? So if I go to something like Bitcoin, which is heavily traded, I don't know the volume of it, meaning how much gets traded a day, but it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars. There are so many buyers and so many sellers for Bitcoin that if you put in what's called a market order, which is what I do all the time, which is basically just buy and sell at the next price, it's fractions of a second. There's always a buyer, there's always a seller for something as highly traded as Bitcoin.
But then there'll be a point, just like we see in all the stock market and realtor situations, where everything goes up and down and drops, and somebody will get hit. As far as, doesn't have to be Bitcoin, it could be what's the name of the dog? What is it? Doge. We can talk about all these different currencies, but the point is that there'll be some that'll just end up crashing within the next couple years, while some will stay alive. Bitcoin, to me, is kind of like that McDonald's, kind of like that Pepsi. They've been around forever. There's a bunch of other chains out there, but there's nothing like those guys who just stay relevant and you can invest your money in. Now, you ain't gonna see a lot of money as much as you would if you were a beginner investor with McDonald's. If you do it now, I mean, there's billions of people on possibly, in the stocks of McDonald's. So for me, this is where a separate conversation of, if I know you're on Bitcoin, you want to promote that, but if I was to catch something new, that's just I don't know, Fox coins, Fox, whatever you want to call it, crypto, Fox crypto,
Apex coin, dude. We gotta make the not joking.
Yeah, exactly. So we make our own, and then all of a sudden we're the first investors, and that can blow up. But at the same time, there's the worry of, like, for all of us paranoid folks out there, that's like, oh, but if I invest and then it crashes, anything could. But you're talking about, I don't know what's the numbers, but I would assume probably over $1 billion, maybe, or at least close to it, from all these rich people who are investing into crypto and saying, hey, let's put our money in here. I mean, that's a conversation, but how would I monitor? Of course, there's probably just an app where you can just see all of this. How can I monitor the movement? And is there a history of, like, understanding the ups and downs of crypto when it comes to its values, and, like, okay, well, this is at a bad place? And has there ever been some company that's crashed that's a cryptocurrency?
Oh yeah, dude. Most of them don't survive. Like, for all of the coins that you heard, there's hundreds, if not thousands, that are garbage that will go to zero and they won't exist. Some of them are outright scams. Some of them were honest, they just didn't know what they were doing. And, like, to your point about volatility, which volatility means price go up big and price go down big, like, that's just the game in crypto. So I can give you an example, like a Bitcoin. A month and a half ago, it was at 70,000 approximately. It's at 41,000 right now. It's a huge drop. So, you can get crushed if you're trading that, and if you're really dependent on making money that way, like you're leveraging, maybe you're borrowing money to go into like an crypto investment, you can get absolutely demolished. So you got to know the risks of it. Now, to your point about these newer coins, 100% fortunes can be made in these new volatile coins, but they're risky, right? That's the other side of making a fortune, is losing a fortune.
Definitely.
But there are multiple websites. One is called, this isn't chill, this is free stuff. So one's called TradingView. There's 1,000 of them. TradingView is what I use. You can put in regular assets like stocks. You can put in crypto assets. They chart them. You can see the trends. And in terms of interpreting the trends, this is my humble opinion, but people certainly disagree with this. I don't think anybody actually knows what any crypto is going to do in the short term. I think everybody's guessing.
Yeah, I mean, that's life. I think, the crazy part is we got all these so-called experts on everything, and life happens. Things change drastically in the world, and this is why I opened up this conversation. This is something I wanted to do last year, but basically just bring up these topics that are tough for some people to open their minds to. And it's like, the same way you close your mind to things is the same way things that are you're depending on will end up shutting down or closing out. And in 20 years, 30 years, who knows how this all goes? Maybe this would be the new way, because you got to understand, people are getting tired. America's itself, and this is separate, now we're getting a little political here.
It's all good, dude.
America's currency and America's wealth is basically we're starting to see the ugly side of America. America's supposed to be the greatest country, is what they say, and this and that. I'm an American. I'm born in New York City, you know, but you know, I'm not shaming my country, but the facts are that you see other companies that are, I'm not going to name them, but they're doing very well with their developments and growth. And it's a scary thing, because then you're like, okay, well, that means we're losing all of our value, whether it's finances, et cetera, or just public view of our idiocy presidency that we had for a little while. And then just a lot of stuff in that realm. And the reason I bring that up is because things are changing, and things will consistently change. And the digital world, whether people that are closed-minded, no offense to anybody watching, I'm trying to open your mind here, but at the same time, I am going to throw some jabs. It's in the end of the day, we have to be open-minded to try to figure out new ways. You can't be in a relationship and think that you can just be the exact same throughout the whole relationship and that it's going to be okay. You have to actually adjust to the times and you know, figure out new and fun ways to do things and work things. And I believe cryptocurrency, NFTs, I know you're not like, how deep are you in the realm of NFTs, by the way?
I know what's going on. Like, I can definitely answer those questions. Like, I just sourced some NFT artists. I just got some NFT artists and some developers, hooked them up with a game designer, and we, you know, helped them kind of meet. And I can speak to NFTs for sure.
Right. So the reason before you go in there, the reason I want to bring that up is for everybody watching. You know, one of my biggest debates in the past couple weeks or literally months was the NFT conversation. And I want to start off by saying I don't have all the information and knowledge of it. I've not defended it, but I also have not went against it, because I understand there's a lot to learn from it, and that if it's going to stay around if done properly. At the moment, what we see and what we hear about is artists getting robbed for their artwork and people getting upset that like the NFTs are getting sold over and over, and then the artists are not getting a cut because they, you know, got robbed for their art. Someone else sold it and making millions, and it's just a whole liability issues. And there's just something that, like I was talking about crypto, and Slapped in here did a good job to break it down a little bit, but I got to do my own research on who's controlling it and how do we monitor them, because we need to know what's going on that side as well, and keeping an eye on everything. Same thing with NFTs. We got to figure out ways to regulate it and to work it. But my question in the starting conversation is, where do you see NFTs for the future? We know that there's art. We know that the video games are taking a shot at that. Music artists are trying to, you know, sell some songs and albums. Things like that are happening right now. Yeah. And what do you feel about the future with NFTs?
I think games, man. I'm not just saying this because of the audience. Like, I think that games are going to be drawn to this like you wouldn't believe. And there's really simple reason why. It already exists to some degree. You know, in Apex, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, you have players grinding essentially for some sort of exclusive skin or microtransactions for an exclusive skin. And that's actually the large part of the game economy right now, is player ownership of exclusive items in game currency. Now, you can make the argument that players, if they have the option to personally own that skin, and that's what an NFT would give the ability to do, they're going to take to that. So imagine if a AAA, because right now all the NFT games, I'm going to be real with you, they're hardly games. Hardly games. I don't know if you ever played any of them, but like they are like maybe clickers, or like they're not fun. I'll just say that, in my humble opinion. So if we get an actual AAA studio that starts, say, like World of Warcraft as an example, that says, hey, that rare sword skin is now an NFT, and you own it, and you can sell it on a blockchain to somebody else. Like, now the ownership of all these digital goods will be in the player's hands. Who wouldn't want that? It will no longer be owned by the game company. Right. They don't obviously want to do that, because, in my humble opinion, because why would they want to give up control? But eventually it's going to happen, because as soon as
Ubisoft did it.
Yeah, and if they put pressure on people, if that's enough to put pressure on, Activision, all these other, AAA studios, they're going to have to do it too. It just makes sense, man. The whole gaming economy is run by these unique skins and things like that. So people are going to want to own it. And in the DeFi world, in the crypto world, there are these games, Axie's Infinity. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's an actual video game that people can earn up to $500, $600 a month, which doesn't seem like a whole lot if you live in America. But if you live in the Philippines, that's more than you would make like working a job. So those guys are taking to it. Those guys are making $500, $600 a month playing a game. There's something called
I'm babysitting my nephew and just have him play it. Hey, sit down right here. Play this for 12 hours. I'll feed you. Don't worry.
Yeah, but that's happening. Games are happening. Keep it short. I think that the art thing will always happen. I'm not personally stoked about the art thing. I think it's a little silly, to be perfectly honest with you. This idea of owning a JPEG for however many millions of dollars.
That's rich people problems, though.
I agree with you. And also speaking to the point about the problem with counterfeiting and stealing, what I'll say is, and this is what I'm talking about, crypto doesn't solve everything. Those problems exist in the default art world. Counterfeit and stolen art is not unique to crypto, right? So that problem actually is way deeper than crypto. That problem that's an existential problem. But I'll give you this as a use case of NFTs in the future. So one of the things that I do as a side hustle is I do real estate. I buy and sell property. I flip houses and things like that. One of the annoying things about buying property and selling property is the transfer of ownership, deeds, those sorts of things. That takes a week or more, and you have to pay somebody $500 to $1,000. I'm around New York City as well, where I live, to make that happen. So, and one of the reasons why it's so expensive is because you need to hire a trusted person to go through records, and these records can be stored in a million different places, and they have to verify which records are real. If you put an NFT on a blockchain, what a blockchain does is makes it so that nobody can fake the ownership of that deed. And those deeds can be passed at a fraction of the cost instantaneously, nearly instantaneously. Or healthcare records, or anything that requires trust can be NFT'd, put into an NFT, and put on a blockchain. So it's really limitless. But I think games are where you're going to see it first, to be honest with you.
Got you.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. And man, appreciate your time and energy on this. Yeah. I think there's a lot of layers to the NFT world on how that's going to shape out. For video games, Ubisoft did a skin thing and it didn't work out as well. It didn't get popular because people are boycotting it because of the not understanding it so far. But it is a scary conversation too, because if it turns into, things that hurt the game that are like game focused, I can't unlock a character or a weapon because of an NFT, then companies have done us wrong as players. In the experience. So that's where I can support anybody that's boycotting a game if they do that. Yeah. But if it's for a skin and you want to look cool with a little gold helmet, I don't really give a damn how much you paid or didn't pay. That's you. So that's just me on my personal view with the NFTs. But I definitely feel I agree with you. It is going to be interesting to see how, honestly, I'm one of the creative people. Like I stay up thinking of ideas. And I've made a lot of people money except myself. But the one thing that I've been thinking lately is like, what is the NFT that nobody's thought about that I can be the first one to create that's going to be so special? And I don't mean like the first one to make an artwork. I'm talking about like a new genre of NFTs that's never existed and just pioneer it. Like, wow. And I think that's going to happen a lot in the next couple years. If this keeps going the way it's going right now, and a lot of these millionaires are investing big time into it. So we'll see what happens. Could we take a second outside of all this to kind of get into now this is where you're pitching. And by the way, everybody, this is Mad Gamer, and I have a special guest, Slapton, who is in his own business side that I would like him to present right now. Before he does, know that disclaimer, madgamer.com and everything that I do does not have responsibilities for the person's
Mhm.
words, comments, thoughts, or anything like that. We appreciate having guests, and just know that everyone is responsible for themselves, and we're not, you know, shouldn't be held accountable for any of that. So it's something that I want to look into. His company, and well, not his company, but
Yeah.
the movement that he's on with crypto and different things like that is very interesting, and I haven't got the chance to dive as deep as I wanted to. So I thought today would be a good chance to kind of him introduce it for me verbally and kind of give us a rundown on what it is, you know, as best as he could. This is the floor is yours for whatever you want right now. If you could just kind of help me understand, since we already got through the generalization of crypto.
Yeah, like in terms of the entity that I approached you with.
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't want to be real. I'm not going to shill anything. I'm just going to let you know what it is. So people, it's not my game to shill. I really am very responsible and respectful that like people got to do their own research. But what the entity that I'm involved with is called Klima DAO, KLIMA DAO. A DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. To keep it really simple, you can think of it as a commune. So there is like a bit of a hierarchy. There are core developers, but then the community can almost self-select who's going to be involved in the production and the development of this thing. So I was just in their Discord chatting, helping people out. I was making some videos that people thought were helpful, and then I became a moderator, and then I became the lead of community events. So that's my position. That's what I do.
But what is this? What is this company?
Yeah,
I
so
don't
it's
understand.
really complicated, but here's the long and short of it. There's these things called carbon credits. So if you were to plant, let's say, 1 million trees, you could go to a carbon verification group. There's several of them called like Vera Gold Standard, and they would go to your site and they'd say, hey, I can verify that you planted 1 million trees. And I can calculate that you have absorbed or offset X amount of carbon tons, let's say 1,000 carbon tons. So you've just captured 1,000 carbon tons. You're responsible for that. Here's your voucher. Here's your receipt that shows that you have captured 1,000 carbon tons. Okay? And so companies need these things because companies pollute. Let's make up a company. We'll call it Video Game Incorporated. They're going to be burning all sorts of fuels to make their games. You know, they got to power their buildings, they got to travel, they've got to produce the game, they got to advertise the game. All that requires burning fossil. And let's say Video Game Inc. has made a pledge to their consumers that they will be what's called carbon neutral, meaning that everything that they produce, they will also offset. All the pollution that they create, they can also reverse with carbon offsets. But they're not going to plant trees, man. They've got better things to do, you know? So they're going to pay somebody else who's already planted the trees for their carbon credits. So, like, you got to get, like, that's the first concept to kind of figure out. Well, let me know if that, like, makes sense. So if I plant trees, I can sell it to a company that needs my work, proof of my work to be, that it was done.
Okay, so I'm owner of the Video Game Mag company.
Yeah.
And we use a lot of energy, so we have to account for that to get approved. Like, hey man, you know, we're trying to do what's right in the world at the same time, so we have to get these trees, aka enough to account for our damage.
Yep.
So I can hire or purchase that through your company, is what you're saying? Or you're the regulators?
So yeah, we'll get to so you can purchase what are called carbon offsets from somebody who planted the trees, and in essence, that gets you out of the pollution. You trade your money for their offsets, then you trade those offsets for your pollution, and now you're what's called carbon neutral, right? So I polluted, I bought my way out of pollution, and here's the reality of that. A lot of times, these carbon credits are of low quality. There's a lot of good reasons for that. I don't want to get too into it, but it's just something you have to accept. It's like they're very cheap, and they actually aren't as beneficial to the environment as the pollution they're offset.
Yeah, so if I'm going to sell you these trees, I'm going to try to get the cheapest trees so I won't have to spend a lot of money. I'm not going to buy, the Tesla version of a tree to sell it to you. I want to buy the cheapest trees and sell it to you for as much as I can so I can profit.
And to be even worse than that, because a carbon credit could be, I ran a hydroelectric, I ran like a power plant that's like a waterfall, I cap hydroelectric. Now, that's really not capturing carbon in and of itself. But what they're saying is, if we had used a coal power plant, it would have produced this much carbon. And since we're not using a coal power plant, we should get credit for that. So that would be considered like the lowest grade, one of the lower grade carbon captures, and a company can buy that for dirt cheap. And we have a name for that. It's called greenwashing. That's basically a company saying, I'm going to pollute and I'm going to get out of it cheap by buying these cheap carbon credits.
Right.
And that's a problem. So what Klima does and has been doing is saying that we will bond, we will accept these carbon credits. You give them to us, we lock them in a treasury. In return, we're going to give you what's called a Klima token, and we'll trade them essentially. And we've locked up over 14 million carbon tons, which is more than the country of Sudan produces in a year. And the idea is if we sweep the floor of these really poor carbon credits, the price of carbon will increase. And that is exactly what has happened. Klima launched on October 18th, about 3 months ago. And the price of carbon credits has doubled, or actually more than tripled since the launch of Klima. So this is good for several reasons. One, companies now, if they're going to choose the greenwashing route, are going to have to pay a higher price, which might incentivize them to not pollute at all in the first place. It's also going to ensure that the carbon credits that they're purchasing are actually of quality, and it's going to give a source of income for people to do carbon projects. So that's the first step of Klima right now, and it's been wildly successful at that. From here, we're going to go on to do, we're going to get complicated, but
we're gonna get complicated like you haven't got already.
Yeah, I know, man. So that's like the first thing.
This is a whole other world. And to stop there for a second.
Yeah.
All right. So simplify this, right?
Yeah.
So basically, these companies are polluting. They're getting away with murder by purchasing cheap versions of, hey, we keep everything clean. Here you go. And you guys are finding a way to basically turn the prices higher through. What is it exactly you're doing? You're purchasing
I got this for you, dude. I got this for you.
Explain GameStop. It that way.
Everybody knows GameStop, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what does GameStop do? Is they buy everybody's used games to the point where if you want to buy like an old SNES cartridge or something like that, I just did this. I just went through my catalog and started selling stuff. The price of SNES cartridges and those things are pretty high right now because GameStop freaking has them all. Yeah. So if we buy up all the games, the price raises essentially. If you have a monopoly on the games, the price raises.
Right.
Well, the same thing's true of carbon. If we suck in all this carbon, 14 million tons, we keep sucking in all this carbon, supply is going to be trapped, and the price of carbon is going to increase.
Yeah, but what I'm curious about as somebody coming into the company, are you making profit off that, or that's just something we're trying to do to help society? And everybody's just kind of chip in to help be like, hey, you know what? You guys are not going to get away with this murder anymore. We're going to put you a chokehold on you. Sure, that sounds great. But as a person, like, am I investing in that?
Yep.
Or am I just hired as a, hey, you're coming, you work for us? Or
it's not a charity. It's a good question. No, it's a great question. I hear you. It's a great question. So where's the money coming from? Not a charity. The goal, if you're an investor, is to make money. So those 14 million carbon credits, which right now have a price of about $5.34, are in our possession. So you can do the math on this. I haven't looked in a day, but like the amount of money in the treasury of Klima DAO is approximately $100 million.
And the goal is to sell it and profit from that, but once you finish, are you gonna redo that again? How does that work? What is the idea behind the finale here, because what I'm looking at is there's gonna come a point if you end up making enough and you're like, okay, this is the time where we come to a deal, or how are you gonna do that? What is the goal behind it?
Yeah, so if you would just keep stacking money in our treasury, our value increases, obviously, right? Let's say a year from now, there's $500 million in your treasury. Like, one of the things you're doing when you're investing in a company is investing in the value that is in that company, right? Like, why do you pay money for Amazon? Like, to buy a stock in Amazon, for instance. It's because you know that Amazon has a certain value. And we know that Amazon's not going to liquidate. You know what I mean? Like, all the assets aren't going to be sold and redistributed to the stockholders. We know that's not actually what's happening, but it could. Does that kind of make sense? Like, if we thought about all the stuff that Amazon is worth, let's say in theory Amazon is worth $1 trillion, all of their buildings, all of the things that they own. If they sold it right now, that money would in theory get redistributed to the people who own their stock. But is that really going to happen? Like, probably not. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really what it could, but it's not really what happens. So, in theory, that could be true for Klima. Like, if we stopped right now and said, hey, we're going to distribute our treasury to everybody who owns a Klima token, you get a part of the treasury. But,
Gotcha.
like, there's no plans to do that. The plans are just to keep going. Keep stacking money. Keep stacking money. And if you invest, you, in theory, have a claim to some of that treasury. Like, you have exposure to that treasury.
Are these companies who are polluting the ones that are going to be getting you how does that currency come through? You get me? Like, yeah. I'm investing into the company to start creating what you just explained, but yeah. Does that currency come through? Because my thing is I was thinking you guys were just gonna sell at a point where you're like, okay, well, we stacked it up and you guys are desperate now and you need this from us.
Oh. No, because here's how it works. The way that the way that the carbon comes into the protocol is through what's called bonding. So I've done this. You can do this if you go to the website. You can get these carbon credits. They're available on a blockchain. You can go to the protocol and then you can trade them yourself. Not the companies. Anyone can purchase these things, put them into the treasury, and in return, you will receive Klima token at a discount. So if I put as an example, I can put $95 worth of carbon into the treasury, and I can get $100 worth of Klima.
Gotcha.
So the incentive for you would be to, hey, I want to get that 5% extra in Klima. And so that's we've incentivized people to bring carbon into our treasury. So it's just everyday people or institutions, it's anybody really who has access to it. So we don't have to pay people USD for the carbon. We have to pay people Klima for the carbon. And because we create the Klima, it's profit to us.
So Klima is already a crypto, basically.
Oh, it's a crypto. Yeah, it's a crypto. Has a market cap right now of like $190 million.
Got you.
So it's valued at $190 million, and it holds about $100 million in treasury.
What happens when Elon Musk takes over the world and makes everything electric, and you guys have no more pollution to worry about?
We've won. That's what first of all, like, to your point, like, if that happens tomorrow, yeah, Klima's probably in trouble, right? If there's no fossil fuels tomorrow, then the project's probably, like, it has to pivot. Keep in mind that treasury is still there, but it would have to pivot. But I would argue that we've won because we've just gone net zero. Like, the world has won if that's the case. But the reality is we're not seeing any of that for decades.
Yeah, I mean, the billionaires what's funny? People think like the billionaires are like the, what's this guy's name? Jeff Bezos type of.
Yeah.
But there's billionaires that you'll never know their name. You know what I mean? Like, they're just out there. They wouldn't allow any of that to exist. The reason these billionaires became who they were was because of not creating the pollution, but the profits from oil and I mean, all of it basically. So that's interesting. I think I'm kind of getting where y'all at with it. It's still weird, but basically you have a crypto that you created. You created through the pollution side. Like, that's how the cryptocurrency has become what it is. The value of it isn't specific on that, but it is a part of it, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, here, if we go back to GameStop, I love like analogies. If you gave me games, I said I want all the Super Nintendo games ever made, and so you can bring me your games, and I gave you a credit, like a GameStop credit. Like it cost me nothing to create that GameStop credit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in sense, I absorb the value of your games. You get to keep my credit as long as you believe in it. It has value. The same way that we agree that $1 has value, it really doesn't. There's nothing backing it. Nothing truly backing it. You know, there's no gold backing $1. And so that Klima or that GameStop credit that I gave you was you know free for me to make, and I got your video game value. That's kind of how it works.
Got you.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, man.
It is interesting stuff.
We gotta dive into this a little more so I can know. But now I get it. I get a sense of where it was at.
Yeah. It's complicated. It takes a while. Like it's not something like if you're listening out there, you're like, yeah, I don't get all of it. It's like, that's cool. You're not supposed to get all this day one. You're not supposed to get it in 15 minutes. It takes time to digest and sink in. It's not like I'm dumb, I'll never get it. It's that these are new ideas. Took me a while too. Like, it takes time. You got to play with them.
Yeah, I actually really like I'm very pro clean energy, so
yeah,
it's something that I'm for too. So that's pretty cool. That's a cool side of it, but just got to look into it and see all the details. Again, I'm personally getting myself into crypto in the near future. I'm definitely going to work on some NFT projects that once I create something new that's not been done. And also just investing if I can.
Yes.
So
big time. It's awesome. It's awesome that you get involved. It's like I said, whatever your appetite is, I think everybody should dabble. You don't have to throw in thousands of dollars dip your toe in, man. $100 here, like just have fun with it. It really, that's the way I think to look at it. If you really want to get into crypto, is you gotta enjoy it, and just little by little, piece by piece. And you're not going to get to where somebody, not to say that I'm the end all be all, but like get to even my level. You're not going to be there in a day. It took me months and months and hundreds of hours of learning. It's a process. The same way you're not going to be the best Apex Legends player after your first round.
I am.
Yeah, you picked it up. You're as good as you were day one.
No, I'm definitely not. I'm a host for a reason. But yeah, so I appreciate you, man. That was amazing. Any last plug or we got a big plug right there for the crypto that you're working with, and I do think it's interesting. And I outside of all the other cryptos, I'm not even sure how they function. We got an actual in-depth look at some of how it works, and that's something I want to look into deeper too, to see how that all functions. I'm over here being manipulative, thinking, hey, we're gonna chokehold these companies and force them their prices higher, and then sell it back to them, and then be all done, and then we'll make a big couple $1 billion off these bastards.
Well, nothing is set in stone. Like right now, the idea is stackpile that treasury. What we do next, it's infinite. There's really an infinite number. Like we can start buying land in the future, and with that money, that like regenerative forest land, and that yields a profit. We could become, one of the things we're trying to do is become the reserve currency of all carbon markets. Like, it's infinite, man. But I like the way you think. Very Machiavellian.
Hey, but that's also kind of rough with the trying to help with pollution. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting to see how that all plays out in the dynamics of it, because our society could use our resources to have clean energy everywhere, the globe, and then also have more housing for like homeless people and different things that we could do. We have the resources, but in a capitalist mentality where it's like dog eat dog and we got to get ours, it's a tough one. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate your thing. Again, any last plugins before we get out of here? I was supposed to catch up with somebody else on some of this convo a little bit.
I don't know. I think we said what we had to say. It's been a pleasure. Your community, I jumped into your Discord. I lurk in there. I said a couple things. They seem lovely. You guys are very active. I was in there today. All the rooms are filled up, which is a beautiful thing to see. I'm a big fan of community, so any active community that's out there doing positive things, even if that means connecting video game players, which is a positive thing, I'm a big fan of. That's one of the beautiful things about the internet, Web 2 and Web 3, is it's bringing people together in a shared mission. And at the end of the day, here's what I think video games and crypto have in culture. It really is about people looking out for other people in a general way, and these communities forming and people trying to rise up, however they can to find a better position in life. I do believe that. So big ups to you and your community, and I appreciate it, man.
Hey man, I appreciate your time, dude. That was amazing, and I feel like I learned a lot, and hopefully everybody else learned.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have thousands, sometimes we have hundreds, sometimes it's low numbers, but it's good to have you, man. And we'll catch up again anytime you're free. And we do have to talk about an event in the future. I'm excited for it now, just to be able to have a chat with you on a personal level about something totally different. But we could talk about that privately, and then
of course,
go from there, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother, man. Peace, guys.
Take care. Slapton in the building, man. That was a pretty good talk. I think we learned a lot. For anybody watching, like, what the heck are you guys talking about? Trust me, I know what you feel, man. I had to do my homework. I'm come from New York City, from the streets, as a New Yorker, where these type of stuff are not even considered. You're just out there. And I grew up, changed my ways, and I got to a good place where mentally I want to learn. Mentally, I want to grow, and I want to be different as far as developing better habits, routines, developing new ways. And I don't want to be stuck in the old, per se. So getting to talk with people like that are in the business and are doing some great things, it's an honor. And I'm gonna go and start talking to an awesome person who's separate. We got this is a separate conversation. It has nothing to do with crypto, but it does have to do with gaming, and an interesting thing for the future for those that do watch for gaming purposes. But this is going to be a show that we're going to do in the near future. I want to make sure that that's clear. This is something I've talked about last year. This, business mindset that I want to build through just a channel that I'm going to create for it. And we'll get into these topics, and it's not going to just be crypto or NFTs. It's going to be all types of business, all types of different layers, let's just say, going forward. So it should be fun. It should be good. And we're going to go ahead and invite another gentleman, get on a phone call with him, and see how it goes. Just a quick phone call and kind of like on the meetings. I'm going to start doing all my meetings live on stream. It's going to be hilarious. Oh, man.
Hey, what's going on, man? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Halfway Human. What's up, brother? You're live on stream, by the way.
How are you? I'm good. How about yourself? How are you?
I am real good. Today we're doing like a weird brand new thing that I haven't done, which is called learning about crypto, NFTs, and more. But we're having you on because me and you had to have a really good talk about some cool stuff we were talking about last week.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And thank you for having me.
Cool. So to introduce Halfway Human, it's funny now. I could actually, we're gonna have to like put a hype train behind this gentleman here. I was gonna introduce him regular, you know what I mean? But he's halfway human now. He really is halfway human. His team just killed it. So really big props to you, man. And if you want to introduce yourself and tell us about that, if you don't mind sharing a quick, victory lap about what you just recently did and give us the rundown on what happened.
Yeah. Number one, thank you for having me on again. Yesterday, what a wild. Actually, let me back that up. What a wild weekend it was. Coming into the ALGS Challenger Circuit qualifiers, we finished the series in 11th, which put us in a winner's bracket for a shot at the Pro League. So what happens is you have those top 12 teams and 8 Pro League teams that were at the very bottom of the Pro League. Those 20 teams face off, and the top 10 teams move on to the finals, and the bottom 10 teams go to the losers bracket where the other 13th through 22nd teams were. So those teams squared off. The top 10 from there went to the winners, went to the finals, should I say. And out of that, the top 8 teams make it into the ALGS Pro Circuit. So our team battled hard all weekend. We finished, I think, second or third, maybe even fourth in the winners bracket, and then third place in the finals. Which, I mean, I'm ecstatic. Coming into it, you're just nervous. You don't think it's going to happen. You're like, we're good, but are we really that good? And they went out and they proved exactly what I've known about them all along, is they're one of the best.
Definitely one of the best. So for everybody that doesn't understand what's going on, Apex Legends, I host my tournaments. They are community based. Everybody's welcome to join. And ALGS does the professional specific for all the pro players, and they have these qualifiers, they have these everything that he just explained, and you're playing against people who live together and practice together for 12 hours at times. You're playing against people who basically do this for a living, and you're trying to get in there and see what you can do. And Halfway Human, aka the Nightmare Squad, did it. They did it. They actually did it. And it's such a blessing because, I have a bunch of different pros, and then I have these guys who are like trying to make it. And when I hear they're trying to make it, folks, it really is inspiring. And so thank you for just sharing, man. I just want to tell you that just sharing it alone always gives me, goosebumps and inspiration to keep pushing forward on my side, to offer like a little platform for players. And funny, you sent me a tweet from everybody that's watching knows this guy. He came and played the beginning in when we first started. I think we started in May or June of last year. And Onmu, I always say his name wrong, but Onmu, he basically was such a dominant force, and they looked like they were going to win, but somehow another team beat them in our tournaments, and it was just crazy. But then he ends up winning the world championships, literally the finals of the finals last year.
That too was crazy. If you look at the time, it was Kungarva before they went to 100 Thieves. So you had Omnu, Scurry, and Vayne. And if you go back and you look at that world finals, and they competed in your league as well, am I correct?
Yeah. I was just talking about that right now.
If you go back and look at that finals, I mean, you have G2, you have TSM, you have NRG.
All of them.
I mean, you've got the best of the best, and I don't think there were very many people, if really any at all, that really thought KNG was going to come out on top. And they just turned the world on its head, and they came out ahead of everything, and they win it all.
Yeah.
And that's one of those feel-good stories, where you look at underdogs, and I've always been a fan of underdogs my entire life.
Definitely.
And that's just a really great story as well.
And I'll add to that, I kind of text you about it, but it's public, and it was out there in the world. One of their players were about to be homeless. And if it wasn't for the actual games, it would have never changed their lives and helped them, go forward. So they believed in themselves. They played in silly little tournaments like mines, and, practiced their asses off. And sometimes you just feel like giving up, and instead you push through and you end up becoming the world champions forever. It's not just temporarily. It's forever, and it's pretty amazing. So That's awesome. But speaking of that, the reason I bring that up is because I feel like your team is getting to that point now where they're proving themselves and they're becoming something special. And actually, me and you were supposed to talk about something separate. We've been talking for like a week now, a couple days, and it's like, hey, we're going to try to do an event. And, we've been looking into it and trying to see what's going down. And everything looks cool from afar, right? But I wanted to just have a talk with you and kind of see where your goals are as a team from here. Now I think maybe it might have even went further, right? Like I was gonna have a general talk, but now that you champ like that, what's the deal now? Like what's happening with the team? What is things altering for you? Because
so it's really crazy, and just to really put this in perspective for everybody that's listening. So we've been a let me rephrase that. We've been an organization, so a business, if you will, not a clan, but a business. We've been an organization since the end of July. I've always had a thing for esports. I'm a competitive person at heart. I mean, I was in the Marine Corps for 10 years, and I joined the Marine Corps because I wanted to be the best, right? I gave up on professional hockey to serve my country and joined the Marine Corps. And ever since
thank you for serving, by the way. Sorry to cut you off.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you. And ever since July, I've always had that drive, but I travel a lot. See, I work on the road. I do a lot of public speaking, a lot of sales training, and things of that nature. So for me, competing was never really an option. But I've always wanted to be involved, so I said I want to start my own business in esports. I love video games. I've been playing them since I was a kid, and I still play them to this day with my childhood friends. So in July, we started a business, and Nightmare Esports. And my goal was I've always had a thing for Apex. So I started right here in Apex, and I said, I'm going to build a team. I'm going to put together a staff, and we're going to do this. And I'll fund everything out of my own pocket, which to this point I have. So now flash forward 4 months, and here we are. And the crazy thing is, all
4
three
months?
people. Yeah, 4 months, 5 months,
no.
maybe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know how many teams have been playing for 20 years and they can't do anything? Oh my God. These guys won, man. That's nice.
These guys didn't even know each other.
Oh my God.
A couple months ago. So just imagine what they can do going into the pro league. I mean,
that's crazy.
Oscar, aim god, if you will. I call him Oscar, is aim god.
I need to watch this game, man. Where's the game at? I'm Googling it.
Nerd Street.
Oh, man. No, I'm going to the professional one. I want to see the whole...
That is the professional one. Nerd Street Gaming picked it up.
Did they? That was who picked it up?
Yeah, Nerd Street does all the Challenger circuit and qualifiers, and the Play Apex does all the pro circuit.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I watch all the Play Apex, but I gotta see this. Probably tonight. That's my nightcap.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's you got me hyped. That's crazy.
And,
but people that don't understand, I swear to you, I know these players, not his players, but I know these players that they play 12 hours a day. Like it's zombie style. Like the amount of effort people put into being great, and credit to them. I'm not disrespecting or shaming them. I'm just saying the inspirational side of somebody coming out of nowhere 4 months in, creating an org, and then having these players come together that don't know each other, win in that way. All right, I'm sorry to cut you off, man. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
All right, so you started it 4 months ago. Let's go backwards.
Yeah.
Rewind this conversation.
So when we first started, I mean, we really had nothing. I've always been kind of intrigued and involved in the world of esports. So I had a little bit of an idea of what I'm doing, and not only that, but my background in business, I really have a sense for that. So I kind of had an idea of how I wanted to go with this. So when we first started, we went through a lot of players. I mean, we had a lot of players. Some, I still talk to this day, and I have a debt of gratitude towards them. But we pieced together probably 20 different combinations of teams. Yeah. I kid you not.
Can we pause you there? Just so everybody understands, one of the hardest things in gaming when you're doing coaching and managing is that chemistry and the synergy between players, and then also just getting along. Like you put players together and they're probably just not flowing together. They have different beliefs on when to push or when to step back or when to do this. There's so many problems within that, and it's flimsy. I don't even know the word. I'm sitting here, flimsy when it comes to some players just like giving up. Like, you know what, I'm all set. And people got real life issues, and it's like to force them into consistently playing and trying to be pro. It's a lot in gaming. So as a manager, I can understand where he's coming from, because I've managed and I've run my organization where we've had thousands of teams come in and break up, and they're DMing me about problems, and I can't find a team. Every week somebody's breaking up, you know, it's always something. And so trust me, what he's talking about here, he's not giving you the full story of the moments where you want to give up, and you're like, you know what, I don't even know if we can do this. We can't count on nobody. It's not reliable. And this guy's giving up, and this one over here doesn't want to play with that guy, or this is, you know, not working out. And so they went through a lot. He didn't say it. Sure. I'm saying it for him. But go ahead, man.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head right there. I mean, we went through a lot of that. I mean, there was a point where almost everybody walked out. And then I found actually Aim God, his name's Oscar, goes by Aim God. And in my opinion, he's one of the best fraggers in the game. He is probably one of the most underrated players out there. This guy hits his wingman shots like you wouldn't believe, and he lives up to the name Aim God. I mean, he earned it. This guy, I found him on Facebook, believe it or not. That's where he came from, was Facebook. And so I found Krizik. I believe I found him in the GLL server, believe it or not. And then, excuse me, he brought along a guy that he had just started talking to named Washi. And so we threw these three players together. They went and competed in a couple of GLLs together. For those that don't know, it's global, like the global loot. Yeah, I don't know the rest of it. So I'm just gonna leave it at
Global
that.
Loot League or something.
Yeah, Global Loot League. Yeah, something like that. But anyways, these guys went out there and they played a couple of those games. They did really well. They got into the Challenger Circuit. And Challenger Circuit, the first time through, they did not make the finals. They came in the semifinals. Still, we were still high on them, and they tried again. And in the second qualifier, they make the finals. They do really well.
Nice.
Third challenger, they make the finals, do really well. Fourth one, they make the finals, they do very well, and they secure themselves 11th place to go on to compete for the Pro League. And if you look from the time from when they've started, excuse me, to the time to when they, from when they started as really a team 3 months ago, if you will, to where they're at now, I mean, the sky's the limit for them. I think they're going to do just fine in the Pro League.
Definitely. And I would like to, you know, point out a thing that I kind of stressed earlier about what you were saying without saying it.
Yep.
The stress and struggle of just getting it together, getting the teams and trying to figure it out. If most people, and this is with society and our lives and with everything that we do, you know, you're trying to do something and you give up right before the time when you were about to make it, you know, those moments. So for example, I forgot what famous person said it, but they're like, I don't start counting my reps until it starts burning. Was that Arnold Schwarzenegger or The Rock? One of those two guys. It has to be one of those two guys.
I would put it on The Rock. He's got some good one-liners.
Yeah, so that's a really cool thing to say, but really in life, I feel like that's what happens. You know, we feel like giving up and everything's hard and things are going to break through, but you got to keep pushing. To break through, you might have to break your arm to break through that piece of wood, you know, the metaphor that I'm trying to use here. So I like that side of it, and I think that's a good thing to kind of stress to people. The story of their success isn't just, oh, they came together. It's like a lot of hardship for the management to find the team that worked, and then they finally got it. And so these guys came along, they started playing good together, they started picking up the pace, and now they're on a hot streak, about to take over the world.
Well, that's the plan now, anyways. And you know, it still seems so surreal. And just putting myself in their shoes for a minute, I mean, in this tournament, you have 8 teams that have already been in the Pro League. They've already been there. They're expected to be there. On top of that, you've got teams like Start a Fight, My Neck, My Back, Last Minute. You have RCO Esports. You have a lot of good teams that aren't in the pro league that probably deserve to be there. So the amount of pressure that these three are facing as they're going into those games, knowing their esport careers, if you will, if you want to call it that, really are riding on these 12 games. You know, through the winners bracket and then in the finals, their whole careers are right here on. I wouldn't say necessarily in the line because they're going to get more opportunities, but essentially, this is it for them. This is where the buck stops. This is their chance to make it, and the amount of stress that puts somebody under, you know, and the nerves make you think differently. When you get nervous, or you know, you're I wouldn't say necessarily afraid, but fear is a common thing, and it's okay to feel fear, but these make you think differently. They make you play differently, and we all know that. We've all experienced it, so kudos to them.
Definitely, and I think that's a good topic about gaming and performing high levels. Understanding, you know, the fight or flight mentality in our society, in our natural DNA, as far as our instincts go, fight or flight. You have to program yourself, you know, to fight. Program yourself to know when to, you know, like, hey, you know what, this isn't a fight. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna back off. You can't. Every fight isn't winnable. So, I think, you know, as long as they continue to keep that workflow, and I think you have a good head on your shoulders to also be a good, you know, just a reminder for them. I always talk about coaches. They're just reminders, you know, like basketball, box out, box out. It's like they pay millions of dollars and the coach has to scream all game long, box out, box out. It's just reminders of, you know, so I think it'll be great. And I'm interested now. I'm going to be watching this team on every move they make as just a fan of Apex and watching highest levels and trying to consistently host events to help develop these people also. So we always have like different players and trying to grow and different organizations coming in, and it's just a beautiful thing. But okay, so the question is, what is the next goal? What is the goal for you guys now that this has got to where it's gotten to?
I mean, we're going in a couple different directions here as far as goals. I mean, I'm the kind of guy, I love doing stuff. I love putting things together and watching it come to fruition. I mean, the thing that does it for me is when you start something and you bring it through, you can look back and you can say, look what we've accomplished, look what we've done, and this is what we want to do. So we got a couple of things in the works, and our next goal on top of our Apex team is we are right now talking with a couple of Valorant teams and a couple of Dota 2 teams. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Dota 2, but
I mean, it's very popular. If we should at least know the game.
Oh, sure.
You know, everybody should at least know what it is.
If you don't know what Dota 2 is and you're interested in making money in esports, I guarantee you are playing the wrong game, because the prize pool in Dota 2 was $43 million in the international.
Yeah, those guys are pretty insane, man. Every single, I used to go to a lot before the pandemic to events. They would always have Dota tournaments. I'm like, damn, these guys don't stop. They're
crazy.
Everywhere.
Crazy. And this year, a team that came from like a last chance qualifier, they won in the tournament. They came in first place, which was like something like 20 million or 18 million dollars divided by 5 people. So instant millionaires.
Yeah.
Instant. But on top of recruiting more teams, our eventual goal is to centralize our org, bring everybody into one location, and be like the next TSM, C9, Fanatics, FaZe. And that's where we want to be. And on that same token, I'm sure as gamers, excuse me, we all share a passion for gaming. You know, a lot of us have grown up gaming. I grew up gaming. I mean, my parents bought me a Nintendo when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I can remember the joy that it brought me, as it brings probably a lot of people listening and a lot of people that we encounter on our daily life. We all have a thing for gaming. We have a passion for it. And one thing we decided to do was start a foundation for children who are not as fortunate, which is another big step, actually. Our general manager Kyle, whose name is Brick Wall, is going to be heading the foundation. In essence, what it does, it's called Level Up Kids, and essentially what it's designed to do is help those that are less fortunate, to give them a little bit of joy. I mean, just think about the first time you discovered gaming, and I think every child at least deserves something of that aspect or that nature. So our other goal, on top of having multiple professional teams, is giving back to the gaming community and helping people. You know, it's inspiring to me when I see others helping others, and that's what we also strive to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's the soft spot for me because I do a lot of charity work here in Boston, where I stay at. There's hospitals that I volunteer at and things like that.
We're not that
for
far
the
away
kids. Yeah, for the kids, and you know, and then it's crazy that you're in the military. I also do a lot of military charity work online though for gaming. Things like Help for Heroes, Operation Supply Drop. You ever heard of those two guys?
I have. Yep.
Yeah.
I
So
certainly have.
there's a bunch of different ones that I've helped out wherever I can and kind of give back. I believe that, you know, we're born to serve, and giving basically fulfills us. So that's why I host these tournaments and stuff like that. I haven't even tried to make money or do anything off of it, which is silly. I don't even want to get into critique of myself right now, but basically I should be monetizing things and creating avenues so I can profit at least because of all the hard work I do, but I kind of just do for the love and passion. I'm not rich, so I should monetize, and I will at some point, but yeah, it's a soft spot, man, and I'm interested in, just for everybody on the stream watching, you know, a private conversation me and him been having about running something for that charity and trying to help get it going in a special way. And I'm super interested, and I definitely want to have a talk about that soon. And I have looked into the site and different things, but there's more, you know, conversations that we can do offline at some point. But definitely, so you never know, you can see that in our events pretty soon, you know, sooner than later, possibly too. So guess I'm going with you on that, because that's pretty awesome that you do that. So
I think one of the important things, and this isn't necessarily for us as Nightmare, but one thing I'd like to mention to a lot of people out there that are aspiring to be esports players, or if you're looking to create your own organization, one thing I would say to a lot of people, people ask me now all the time, you know, how did you start an org? How does this work? And I'll tell you, this is, nothing is impossible. I mean, you could literally start an organization with no money and enroll it. What I would say to those listening, I mean, we all love sports, esports in this case, and video games. And if this is your passion and this is what you want to do, and you want to do it for a living, or, you know, like Mag, you want to do it for the love of the game, if you will.
for the love of the game.
The love of the game. I would say it's as simple as just starting and doing it.
Definitely. I could attest to that. I'm not rich. I'm very, people would assume I'm balling for some reason, but definitely not. All I did was in 2015, I got invited to review Metal Gear just because I was a big fan, and I was posting fan articles on blogs, random blogs all over the web. It got a little popular, so they invited me to come review the game. After that, 2016, I started hosting tournaments just in my house through my PlayStation 4 and my, you know, that's it. I didn't have anything else. And then I didn't even have a computer at that time. A year later, I get a computer. I start like doing some graphics and making it look nice. All of a sudden, I get invited to YouTube to host a tournament there. I get invited to Twitch, host another tournament there. Then all of a sudden, I have a little bit of a respect in the industry. And for example, with Apex, you know, again, I'm still not rich, just a broke fellow. Had conversations about hosting Apex since I love the game so much. And they were like, yes. And I did this startup, and I could have started an org because a lot of these teams want me to. A lot of these teams like, can you bring us in and help us out and start an org? And I haven't. I just hosted the tournaments for these players and try to give them a home to practice, to hone their skills and, display them for other orgs. And people have signed some of the guys. And for example, right now, Nightmare, they have their own setup. They just came and played a bit, and then they out there top dogging it, and those type of things happen. So it's possible, exactly what he said, to go from nothing and still do a lot. You just got to have the will to do so. And
one thing I've always I've always kind of lived by this sort of quote, if you will. Henry Ford, we all know he is the founder of the Ford Motor Company, once said, whether you think you can or you can't,
you're right.
You're probably right.
Definitely, yeah.
And I've always kind of lived by that motto. Impossible is only impossible because nobody's found a way to do it yet. Nothing is impossible. And starting in this business and getting into this business, I mean, to get to the point where we're currently at right now, I mean, I'll be honest with everybody out there, a little bit of truth here, that does cost some money. When you find players of this caliber, it does cost money at some point. But,
of course.
Getting to that point, though, is it can be free. I mean, if you can put together a team of 3 players, or go out and find 3 players that are really good, they're everywhere. They really are. There's players out there that are not noticed, that are really, really, really good. It is possible to get there, make money to be able to pay people. I mean, that is a possibility.
I wanted to say something to that point. You got to also know, guys, it's an example of like when a new console comes out, all of a sudden you make money. Like you spend all year not making extra money. But the day that they're like, hey, the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series S is coming, all of a sudden you find a way to make the money. So it's the same thing with the idea of what he's talking about. Like, yeah, you can start it off with no money on what I got to do. I got to do this and do that. Then, okay, now I need money for this. Now I'm motivated. So maybe I'll spend a Saturday doing some extra side hustle money so that I can do this project that I believe in. But if I don't believe in the project, I'm never going to have the motivation to use that Saturday to side hustle so that I can get the money to do whatever I have to do. So instead of staying stuck in that bubble, and this is a psychological thing that I'm trying to teach them, but this is supposed to be about Apex, and we're here breaking down. But basically, to break it down, you spend your whole year unmotivated. You don't believe in anything. You don't try to do anything. So you never have the motivation. But if you put in the commitment to something that you're passionate about, that motivation comes. So will come the money to do something. You will have to find the resources, fight for it, whatever it takes. Please don't go out and rob people, but I'm saying at least go and get out there. And I mean, shovel some snow. It's cold out right now. We got a lot of snow out there. It's possible. It's like, hey, let me go and make a couple extra bucks to supply myself with whatever it is I need for this. But there's a lot of resources out there too, and there's a lot of free things to do to be able to make money as well and like get going. So it's a beautiful world, and you have a lot of great people that can teach you things through the web, through the internet. Right now, you can find any type of class and learn more than you do in college at times. So anyway, but back to the coreness. So we got an amazing team that's about to take over. We have.
That's the hope.
You have a future in that, and then you want to go into other esports setups and then create a whole movement bigger than just one specific game, which is very smart because sometimes games have up and downs, and the popularity and the finance from that can't always be great. So that's dope. I like it, man. I like what you guys are doing. I think you're amazing right now when it comes to the storyline, and then the future goals and
we're not alone in this either. There's one other pro that I think kind of gets overlooked on the whole rags to riches story. You might be very familiar with the man. He plays for a top tier org, and his name is Monsoon. So Monsoon was living out of his vehicle, and he was using Wi-Fi, I believe, at like McDonald's and whatnot to play Apex, essentially, when he first got noticed. And the man got signed to Complexity, which is a huge org. And I think a lot of people will regard him to this day as probably one of the best players in Apex Legends. And, you know, this man's sitting pretty now down there in Dallas, but he struggled until he really popped off too. So another feel-good story.
Definitely don't give up no matter what. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. That's a good breakdown, and I think it's a good way to end the night. Also, I'm about to go have a snack and watch some of this game from your team. See how good these guys are. I just want to, you know what I want to see? I want to see the composition. I want to see the decision making on the leadership, as far as if I can get a link to one of their streams if they have.
Oh yeah.
And then see like where their decision making, because for me the leadership is so critical. You're sitting in a map with 19 other teams, you know, all one rotation, one little push that you shouldn't have done. It's all it costs. So it's kind of like life. You make a mistake and you're gonna pay decent price for it for a while until you figure out how to recuperate. So I want to see that.
One thing I did leave out of this whole success story is we actually have a coach. So every good team, you always go and you find a good coach.
Definitely.
Because a good coach is worth their weight in really in gold. So our coach is Fatal Flaw, who was with Solafide and was coaching G2, if you will, Designful and those guys. And Fatal Flaw, I mean, he's a cracked out player. He's good. He's like number 6 overall in damage in all of Apex. The man is top tier. So really, after you play a game, you save the VOD, you save the video of, you know, the tournament you just played in, and your review with the coach. And I think one of the things that really helped our team was our Krizik in this scenario would be our IGL, our in-game leader. He's the one that makes all the decisions. He's telling the team where to go, when to be there, how we're going to get there, and what we're looking for once we get there. So I think one thing that really jammed him up early in his career, which he's 100% better at now, is
stop pushing.
So nervous to want to fight people.
That stop pushing. I think I
didn't believe in himself enough.
Krizik is the guy. He's played in our tournaments a bunch.
Yes.
And he's always hungry for that fight. So I study these players a bit and kind of see where they're at. So I definitely can vouch on that. But yeah, so the coach, what did they say? What did he say to him? Just to go from there.
I told him, he said, you guys are probably better at gunfighting than almost any other team out there. You guys are good. Rely on Aim God to get you in there, guns blazing, and you can do it. Don't be afraid of these guys. Your bullets do just as much damage as their bullets do. They don't have anything special that you don't have. You can aim just as good as them. Don't fear them. Just beat them. And really just talk some sense into them, and, you know, kind of critique the way they went about the final circles. And, you know, it's done wonders. And here we are today, and I think these guys right now are, and they've earned everything they have, and they're on top of the world.
What a beautiful story, man. What a beautiful story. I love it, man. It's amazing. And then to just see homeboy, who he went through some teams and had some ups and downs, and as far as just playing in our events, and then now top dog in it, it's pretty amazing. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I want to see you guys in, you know, the finals for the wrap up with the cast. You know, I was gonna try to cast for, I didn't audition or anything, but I had conversations with Respawn about casting officially for ALGS, and just fell apart. A lot of things started happening with me, as you know, and it's just like, whatever, I'm over it. I don't even gonna bother right now until I fix my own situation. So, but I'm gonna be watching like crazy, and I hope you guys hit the finals and dominate there. You know, but that's a good story for any kids that watch this and those orgs that are trying to move up. You know, they got a coach who's on top of their players, and the coach is important, and it's not about the damn, oh, I'm the best shooter or whatever. Sometimes you got to have, you know, that
A fresh set of
diligence.
eyes.
Yeah, that diligence from someone else to be able to point it out and say, hey, this is what's up, this is what's going on, and then just believing in it. It's pretty slick. It's pretty slick, man. I'm excited, and I'm hyped to see what happens, man. But yeah, so I'm gonna let you rock. I'm gonna get off for the night. Any last words, comments, and thoughts, plugs that you want to do for your org? Kind of tell us where to find you. I really love the charity thing, and we'll look into it. And we'll talk about it too, but we'll look into it a little deeper. I know my mods are kind of these are females, so the mods are pretty thorough with, you know, being picky on things. So they kind of gave me a good to go type of feel. So I'll check it out a little deeper. But I love it, man. I love what you guys are also doing, the storyline and everything. So hopefully that comes up when they cover you guys for the ALGS events in the future.
Oh, yeah, and we're excited. So, like I said, we are in the pro league now, so we'll be, I believe, I don't know what division we're in. It's A, B, C, and D. A plays D, B plays C, so on and so forth.
Yep.
I don't know which one we're in yet, but I'll tell you what, I'm excited for when we get there, and I want to thank you for having me on today. You know, and letting us talk about our story and talk to everybody else. We're truly grateful, and we're just really blessed to be where we're at. And it just goes to show for everybody out there listening, hard work pays off. If you believe in it, do it. Don't have any excuses, just do it. No excuses.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Love it. Where can we find you at? What's your social?
At Esport Nightmare. You can find us there, or nightmareesportsorganization.com, which is a really long one.
Come on, bro. Could we just cut it down to Nightmare?
I would if the domain was available.
You could keep that one, but you can buy another one for $20. That's like Nightmare.
You probably could.
nightmareorg.com or something.
You'd be shocked at how many replicas there are out there.
True. Hey, man, I'm gonna grab one and I'm gonna sell it to you for like 10 mil.
There you go. Just think if you had Google or Facebook or something back in '99.
I know. Hey, man, I appreciate it, brother. It was a great talk. Actually, it's actually a lot better when it comes to just storytelling and a little more inspirational side for people that watch this later, because it goes up on Facebook, YouTube, and all those platforms that I'm on right now at the same time. So everybody watching, appreciate you. Thanks, man. We'll catch up. I'll hit you with a DM. I don't know how late you stay up or anything like that, but I'll just send you a DM and we'll talk a little bit after.
All right, that sounds like a plan. Thank you so much for having me today.
It was an honor, man. Take care of yourself.
All right, you guys, be good, everybody.
Peace. Now that was awesome. Just because we need to hear those stories. What's going on, Prodigy? That was Team Nightmare. They just won, literally yesterday, 3rd place overall, and they're officially in the ALGS Pros. That's crazy, right? Just to say it, okay? And some of those guys were in my tournaments acting a fool, trying to get it popping, and somehow coming through and going in with the Nightmare team and officially getting it done, you know? Nightmare team having a coach and taking them to the next level. And that's all you want, you know? When I do my hosting, I'm not trying to be an org. I'm providing a place for people to come and chill. But these orgs that come around and they show their dedication, they have their coaches, they have their managers, they really take it serious and dedicate their time and energy. It's a beautiful thing to see. I hope y'all enjoyed that. I know I did. I really enjoyed it. I done got educated, man. You know how I feel about educating myself every day, and I feel like I could do this podcast every day. And I'm gonna set up the channel, one of my old podcasts graphics. So set that up, and then we'll just have these podcasts where we just talk with people. It's nice. It's not nice. It's amazing. But yes. So thank you once again for everybody watching. If you have any thoughts or comments, now's the time. I'm about to get up out of here. I'm gonna give y'all like 60 to 2 minutes to go ahead and leave a comment, and then I'm gonna come back, answer them, and then get off for the night. I feel like getting back on. I'm gonna get off and play some Apex. I was gonna lay back, but I'm kind of hyped at the same time, you know? Feeling like some Apex. Who knows? But yeah, drop some thoughts and comments. Prodigy asked what's the name of the team. I said it's Nightmare. Check them out, man. They just won 3rd place overall. Thank you. Prodigy, you wrote majors? What do you mean? They didn't win the majors. They won the ALGS. They're in the pros now. Basically, they're going to be playing in the 4 groups, A, B, C, D, and they're battling to get their spots and make it into the finals so they can win it all in the ALGS. We're not talking about our Court Battle League Legacy Series. We're talking about the official ALGS tournaments. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, it was a good day. Good interviews, good conversation. Oh yeah, the majors are coming up Sunday, man. I'm excited, but I'm also like, I got a lot of preparation to do. So it's kind of weird. But I've changed the format so many times for the majors. I got sick in November, in the hospital for a week and a half or whatever. And I was a week, and then I was changing the format then because I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And then got out of the hospital, had to spend a month in home, also change the format. And right now we got a new format for the majors. It's a simple one actually, but a new one where players are going to be basically trying to fight for placement points. So the majors are guaranteed spots, and those points will be, if you're number 1 overall, you'll get a certain amount of points for the championship. So you can have a lead starting from the championship. So that's the goal on how we set that up. So it's pretty fun. We'll see how that all plays out this Sunday, and then every Sunday from now on for the rest of the month. So I'm hyped. It's gonna be a good time, man. I'm hyped right now. I might actually turn this stream off, turn on Apex, and then have ourselves a good time. Hey man, everybody watching, thank y'all so much. Hope y'all enjoyed that. That was a pretty interesting stream. It's cool. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I kind of follow more or less what ALGS does. I kind of change it up sometimes a little bit, but I do like sticking to the ALGS because, you know, these are what you're going to be playing for. When people play in my events, they end up, as you saw, Nightmare, you know, they went and got into the pros, and multiple teams that were in my events ended up in the pros. So it's not like it's impossible. You just got to work really hard, and you got to be dedicated to being the best. It's not one of those things where you just, hey, I'm gonna play on Wednesdays and when I feel like it. You know, this is dedication. You got to put your time and energy into whatever you want to do. So, hey, that was hype, man. That was hype. Again, Prodigy, thank you for coming, brother. Link up next time and get involved in these chats, man, so we could add some extra combos. It was a cool conversation with both gentlemen. Had Slapped In and then Halfway Human. All right, Slapped In was the guy talking about crypto. Halfway Human was the one talking about Apex and the pro team from Nightmare. So yeah, that's the deal. We will and shall be back. All right, y'all have a good night. Take care, man.